the book says we may be through with the past, but the past ain't through with us.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first episode of the Underground Filmmakers Podcast, where two guys, or two filmmakers, sit down and talk shop, or come up with stories, or talk about anything under the filmmaking sun. I am your host, or co-host, Cole Johnson.
My name is Ethan Winslet. I'm also your co-host. I'm excited to talk to you guys today with Cole. We're going to have a good time. We're going to experience the filmmaking Dijon regime together.
Dijon regime, yes,
like Dijon mustard.
If you're wondering why you're listening to these two weird guys, we'll just kind of tell you who we are. I am a film student and aspiring filmmaker.
We're both 20 years old. We've both been doing filmmaking for a very, very long time, probably before we were even teenagers. 10, 11 years old, been doing it, had a passion for it this whole time. We kind of want to just discuss our personal experiences with filmmaking and how it feels deep down in your soul to be outside of the gates, of the pearly gates of filmmaking community. And, you know, it can get a little stressful.
Yeah, we feel like a bunch of the stuff that we're going through and the experiences that we've had and are going to have, that a lot of you guys out there can relate to it, because there are many, many, many people trying to break into the industry or trying to, like follow their dreams, trying to make films. That's what we all want to do. We want to make films, but a lot of us aren't quite there yet, or at least aren't quite at the level that we want to be. And we kind of want to document our journey and kind of like go through it with you guys.
Yeah, precisely. And at the same time, kind of have a little fun with it, because, we're two goofy guys, goony guys who like to have a little bit of fun. Long walks on the filmmaking beach.
Holding hands as the sun sets and the dolphins jump in the background. That's what we're here for. We got a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about. Is serious, and we'll give, we'll talk about our experiences and like our opinions on certain things. But also we might review a few movies every now and then, have a little fun with it, or we get a lot of inspiration from other filmmaking podcasts. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Story Break Podcast done by Rocket Jump, but they do this really cool thing where they sit down with a topic or with anything really and just create a story out of it. They give themselves an hour and they just, from the inception to an idea into like a pitch, they just like full on go through it, and we kind of want to do something like that. So just kind of don't expect anything. Don't expect anything. You're just going to listen to this podcast, and we're just going to like slap you in the face with a surprise. All right, that's what this is going to be.
It's going to be like Christmas morning. You're going down
times 1,000.
You open that big old present, that YouTube video, that podcast file, and you're just like, well, what are we getting today, boys?
All right, so Ethan, I'm about to hand it off to you again. Would you like to tell the very, very beautiful people how and why you are trying to get into the filmmaking industry? Why on earth would you want to do that?
Well, it's not necessarily of a why I want to. It's like a I have to.
Yes, sir.
And only people who understand that statement will actually genuinely understand that statement, if that makes sense, because it's just something that you grow up with in your being, like Spielberg with the train. The story of him like sitting down with a camera that he had and just recording a train. Right. That's just a part of your childhood.
There's just always been like some sort of creative energy inside of you, and you've kind of like in your childhood you kind of funneled it like many different ways. But then like that one day, whatever that day is, you kind of like discover what filmmaking is and like what you can do within the medium, and you're just like, oh my goodness, like this is it.
It's empowering. It's empowering, and it gives you such an amazing output to just to bring something to light. So whether it be a story or just something like that's beautiful, just putting it out there and just seeing it for what it is, and just be like, that's hype.
I know, like I've listened to a bunch of like interviews and stuff, and like I know most people have like a film that kind of did it for them. You know what I'm saying? Like they saw a film and they're like, okay, that's it. Like that's what I want to do. Like this is what I want to make. Yeah. Did you have a film like that?
I was always very, very into tons of films. Started out more like Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff like that. I think that might have been Well, you know, Lord of the Rings was something that I wasn't even allowed to watch, but I secretly watched it, and watching it just gave me a feeling of just like,
Yeah.
This is incredible. And Saving Private Ryan was another one of those that you just watch.
I feel like Lord of the Rings is kind of like our Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Because like people in like the younger generation who grew up, I guess, like in the 80s, you know what I'm saying? They they saw that and they're like, wow, like they've never seen anything like this before. And like that's it. I want to like create something that like it gives me that feel. I want to create something that I want to give other people the feeling that I feel right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I feel like when we watched Lord of the Rings, we were obsessed with Lord of the Rings. I remember like we would go outside and like we'd just like spend our time like slaying orcs in our backyard, you know?
Dude, like we'd have like those wooden swords. Yes. I mean, there was literally periods of times where we would be in the backyard with fake swords that we would cut with saws and like paint to match the swords from Lord of the Rings, and we'd just like make up these stories in our heads and just portray these stories where we're just taking on legions of orcs or legions of Uruk-hai.
Yeah.
And it just is like, that goes back to like having that creativity in you from an early age. You know that you want to do something like that, but before you're introduced to your outlet, aka filmmaking, you don't have a way to put that out there until then.
And I'm about to go off on a tangent just a little bit. I think that creativity that you're talking about is within all of us, like at a very young age, and because every little kid, you know, they like play with cars and like they like you go see a little kid, or like you have a little kid in your family or whatever, and like they're constantly just enthralled in their imagination.
Yeah. All
right, but at some point, you know, whatever distractions that life or society has out there, we start to lose that. You know, we're immersed in like school, and like we're kind of like taught like certain ways how to think. You know, you have to go out of your way to harness that creativity, and not everyone goes out of their way to do that. You know,
because I think that could play into kind of feeling pressured, you know, to fall into line with everybody else, fall into line what you're told to do, how you're supposed to live your life. Which, I mean, I'm not saying morally. Like morally, of course, there's right and there's wrong, but I'm saying more like path-wise, like what people expect you to do with your life and what order that goes into, which goes into every aspect of life. You know, there's an expected age to get married. There's an expected age for this. There's an expected age for that. But that doesn't matter. Theoretically, like you can choose your own path, and whatever path you choose in that way, not morally, again, in that way is the correct path for you, because it's the path that you chose. And not a lot of people get to choose that for themselves, because, and that even goes into like parenting and stuff like that. People will push their kids into the direction they want their kids to go, but I don't think that's necessarily right.
Right. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with who you surround yourself with. We were fortunate enough to, when we became friends and stuff, and like all of our friends, we all kind of still had that creative energy, and we were fortunate enough to kind of like find different things that let us keep that. And since we were really good friends and we all like kept that, then it wasn't like weird and there weren't any like distractions or pressures to kind of
there's nobody that was like
creativity.
I don't really want to. It's like, I mean, we did what we wanted to do, and it was just like, this is what we want to do. We're doing
this is what we want to do. But you know, transitioning back into filmmaking, how did everything we've been talking about, you know, harnessing this creativity, how did that transfer into filmmaking?
Yeah, well, if we take a look back, I think earlier on, before we actually started our filmmaking journey together, we were both fascinated. We both had that raging creativity within our bones, but we both didn't really have the outlet yet. But every now and then, I feel like cameras were introduced slowly and slowly. Every now and then, we try to do something with a camera. And then slowly we got to figure out that we can not only do stuff with a camera, but input our creativity into the camera. And then we just kept it was like something was tugging at our arms the whole time. And eventually it led to, we had like a birthday party, and we were always fascinated with airsoft, because that was like one of the coolest things. I mean, Saving Private Ryan.
Yes, dude. Saving Private Ryan, I remember... I know now I've seen Saving Private Ryan like at least 15 times. 100%. And I remember like when I was a kid, this might be weird, maybe psychotic, but I remember like rewatching the D-Day scene. Just being like absolutely fascinated.
So real.
First, like when I watched it when I was younger, I was fascinated with like the history of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like really into like studying World War II. But then kind of as like, you know, like I progressed and like life progressed, I really became enthralled on how they filmed that. And how they made it feel so realistic, because I had never seen anything like that, because you feel like you're there. And that is like a monumental achievement. It's very rare to find that in a film.
You know, it's really
very inspiring.
Yes, very, very so. what's really strange to me, well, not strange, I wouldn't say strange, but if you look back at the history of just art in general, like paintings, sculptures, stuff like that, artists, the big fascination with them was more along the lines of figuring out ways to depict reality in their own way, but in a realistic way or unrealistic way, depending on what they chose to do, but more so focus on how they viewed reality. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's very important for each artist because, Van Gogh put his pain, how he viewed the world. I think maybe he could even be, he was bipolar. He had all sorts of disabilities and mental health issues, but he poured that out into his own art. Mm-hmm. And I think for every artist, not just of filmmaking, but every art in general, that's kind of the whole fascination of that creativity, is being able to display how you want to view reality or how you do view reality into some sort of piece of art that you can watch over and over again to try and get other people to relate to you, because it's almost like an outreach to other people of similarities to kind of bring them with you. That's
really the point of art, like to funnel your own like emotions and your thoughts and your feelings like into something tangible.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what art is, and that's why I love it, and that's why I don't see how people who don't like partake in any sort of art, like how they like funnel that those thoughts, emotions, and energy and all that. But
I would feel very strange without having that output.
Yeah, and even subconsciously, like when you're making something, you sometimes like put things in like your creation from your own life that you may not even realize it, but you're just it's all a form of expression, really. Yeah, and I think that's been a big thing for us because we've always, we want to make stuff that's cool. We want to make stuff that we feel like it's awesome. But really, like underneath it all, we're funneling these feelings and these emotions and these thoughts. It's all about like what you have to say. It's all about your voice. And that's some of the best artists in the world, like filmmakers in the world as well. Like every sort of artist, that's what makes an artist truly great, is the stuff that they have to say within their art.
Yep. That is very true. Super deep.
Super deep. Lord, this is
becoming more of a psychological.
This is going, like we just expanded into the like we tried to keep this like contained like in a world. Now we just like expanded into the universe. We gotta bring it back a little bit.
We gotta bring it back.
This was supposed to be like our origin story podcast, kind of like tell you guys a little bit about us because we don't want to do that ever again. So we're trying to get it out of the way in the first episode, but then it just became like a philosophical philosophical discussion.
We're like coming up with philosophies. We're like, okay, art is this, dude. Filmmaking is this.
This is the meaning of art.
Out there.
All right, now, so what's the meaning of life? We gotta get to that now.
Oh my gosh.
But I think I speak for both of us when I say that I think the point where we realize that, we can like funnel this creativity into filmmaking is when we started watching people on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is probably an unorthodox way to like kind of get this fascination from filmmaking, because
it kind of limited us.
It did kind of limit us because most people, and I'm not saying like, I'll speak for myself now. I won't say that I've always loved movies as well, and I've always been like, like crazy about them and always been like fascinated by them, but I never felt like I could actually do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It always felt like something that was like really far off and like really out of reach. It seemed so big and like the scope was so big, and I just didn't think that there was room for me in that. But when you see guys that aren't much older than you on YouTube, like Freddie W at the time or Corridor Digital, it kind of gives you, kind of like a light bulb goes off in your head, like, wait, we can do something like this as well.
Yeah, right now, right here.
Yeah, right here, right now. And like we're fortunate enough to kind of grow up in a time where we have a platform, YouTube or Vimeo or whatever we wanted to put it on, to kind of put our stuff out there, and also the technology to do so. Because it's not like we live back in the day, way back in the day, where, there's film and you have to like pay for film stock and filmmaking is really expensive, and it was out of reach. But now our first camera, we had a like little Sony Handycam. Yeah, we had a little HD Sony Handycam, and we just like went to town. Like we had as much footage, we could use as much footage as we want, and it was amazing. There was no limits to what we could do.
There was no limits, and we took a lot of inspiration, not even just like from Freddie W, because I remember when we did discover Freddie Wong and Corridor Digital and what they were doing. But before that, we just looked at people that didn't even really have that much of an audience. They were just making like short clips of just like reverse footage and stuff. I remember doing that, just certain things. And then when we did find other people making narratives and stuff like that, it was like, wow, like these guys literally are doing this with similar stuff that we have. You know, it's not like they have a super expensive camera or anything. I mean, they have
doing
like
it with airsoft guns, and we already had like tons of airsoft.
Yeah, because we were obsessed with airsoft.
We were obsessed with airsoft. So like, okay, well, we have this camera. We have a bunch of airsoft guns.
Let's do it.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. And then that slowly kind of started to evolve into more and more complicated stuff. But moving back to what you said about, or what we were mentioning about it kind of limiting us, I do think seeing that, although it did open us up to the filmmaking world, it also kind of limited us, because in our minds it was like that was the only thing that was tangible. That was the only thing that we could grasp, because that's the only thing that we saw other people grasping. But now as we've matured, we understand that YouTube isn't really the best platform for that anymore. And it was then, but we're late to the game. And so as we see those same people, you know, like, I'm sure Rocket Jump will most likely be making a feature soon. They should. Same
with Corridor. I think they're in the works of it. And I should also mention FilmRite. They've been a huge inspiration. I know I still keep up with everything that guy's doing. I know he's like right on track to making a feature film right now.
Yeah.
And kind of, it's really cool because as like their work started to mature, like, you know, our mindset has kind of started to mature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying necessarily just because they started to mature, but it's just like, it's kind of lined up, you know what I'm saying? There's like a parallel with that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, because, I mean, at first you're like, oh, we can only do this much, but when you see the people that you were the people that showed you that you could do something are now doing the things that you thought you could never do, then you're like, well, then maybe I can do the things that I thought that I could never do.
Exactly.
And that just opens up like a whole new world, and you're like, well, what's stopping me? You know, what's stopping us from making a feature? What's stopping us from making a really long short film or something that might be out of our comfort zone? And honestly, the truth is nothing. Nothing's stopping us. I mean, we can make excuses all day long about money and time and all that, but at the end of the day, if you want to do something, you can find a way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like people that talk about, well, I don't have the money or the time to go to the gym. It's like, well, are you eating out a lot? Oh, you are? You could use that for the money for the gym. Oh, well, what are you doing on your free time? Watching TV? Well, then you could convert that to time for the gym. It's the same thing for filmmaking. I mean, you're going to have to make sacrifices, and sometimes it might be uncomfortable sacrifices, but if you're truly serious about it, you're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're passionate, if there's a fiery passion within you, as I'm sure many of us claim, you will not make excuses. You will go and do it because you have to do it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, I want to do this. If you want to do it and you like keep making excuses, it'll never happen. But if you have to do it and you're willing to do whatever it takes. Now, I'm not saying like sell your house just so I can make a feature film, but
yeah, which people have done. People have
done that, but within, you know, reason, like you like take that fiery passion within you and you have to just go for it. And you know, and that's we're kind of speaking to ourselves when we say that too. You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's a hard thing to do, to just kind of jump in and do it, because there's so many like outliers that you have to consider, but
and ifs and ands and buts and everything in between, just having no clue what the outcome of this will be, not thinking that you have enough time, or thinking that, you know, you got to do stuff, which, I mean, everybody's got to do their own stuff in their own lives. But I mean, when it comes down to it, even if it takes 3 years of filming like once a month, just a scene a month or something like that, it's doable, regardless.
Yeah. But bringing it back again, bring it back.
Let's reel ourselves in.
Reel it in. So after we discovered these like guys on YouTube and stuff, and again we started to make our own videos. Most of them were like live action, just action scenes, really, just like with airsoft guns. And we made a YouTube channel, which I will name drop right now, WarTorn Productions, if you guys are curious on some of the stuff that we have done and do. But we started WarTorn Productions, and it really was just, I mean, I considered it a hobby, you know? I mean, I didn't, we started this, I guess, when we were like 6th grade?
Yeah, we were pretty young.
7th grade, maybe? Something like that.
Right before high school, I think.
Yeah, right before high school. Well, yeah, 1 or 2 years before high school.
Yeah.
And, I mean, at that time, I wasn't telling myself like this is it. This is what I have to do. I just thought, I mean, I knew I loved to do it, and I knew like every time that I did it, I just like everything else like didn't matter, and I just loved doing what we were doing, but it just kind of felt like a hobby. But as we progressed and as we got better, and as the stories we were telling, you know, kind of advanced, and like our own artistic voice was kind of being, you know, injected into these films, we got to a point where we kind of had to make a decision what we were going to do with our lives. Well, I'll speak for myself, what I had to do with my life, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. The only thing I really can think that I like doing is filmmaking. Yeah. And then when I had that revelation, I was just like, okay, I'm going to be a filmmaker. That's like the only thing I can do, and that's the only thing I want to do. And then after that, it just kind of sparked this like all-out pursuit, you know, and like this like relentless passion, like whatever it takes, we're going to get there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So... yeah, that's what it was like for me, at least.
That's pretty similar for me as well. I mean, honestly, like, again, it started out as just something that we really liked and enjoyed to do. But as time went on through high school, really in high school years was when it started to be like, okay, everybody's talking about, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to college for and all this? And I'm sitting there like, college? What's college? Do I want to go to college?
No, I don't want to go to college.
Going to school again? What is this?
We knew from a very long time ago that we did not want to go to college.
Yeah, and now we're both in college.
Now we are both in college. Funny how that works out.
It's pretty funny how that works out. I mean, I'm not saying college is bad by any means. I mean, but I think that it's not for everybody. I mean, for me, right now, it's a part of the plan, but you know. It is what it is. Yeah.
But, you know, when we were in high school, on the weekends, we were either making a film or doing nothing.
Yep.
That's how it was. And we didn't, you know, ever go to parties or anything like that. Nope. We just, all we actually wanted to do was just, like, make films, make movies. Like, we just, like, that's all we wanted to do. And so, you know, we did that all throughout high school. And then when high school ended, like, okay, well, I guess we got to go for it. But I know at least for me, like right after high school, I was like still, you know, like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, just a little bit. But something very significant happened in October of 2016 that kind of altered the course of our entire lives. Whether I'm actually just now realizing that, but it did really alter the entire course of our lives. Ethan, would you like to explain what that event was?
Yes. So you guys probably remember back in September and October of 2016, really big thing happened. There was a lot of news footage and stories about clowns being sighted everywhere, and for whatever reason, I don't remember how it came to be, but we started talking, and I think I was with Josiah one night, and we were talking just about the clown things going on, how weird that was. And then we had called each other, and then the idea came up of let's use filmmaking to our advantage here. Yeah. You know, let's put some sort of narrative out there and try to see if people will actually watch what we do and if we can pull this off in a way that would be believable.
Yeah, because there was a trend just sitting like right at our feet.
Yeah, and it wasn't even YouTube yet. It was not on YouTube. It was mostly just like news footage on YouTube. That was about the only thing, but mostly like Twitter and pictures like that, just clowns standing on the side of the road. Well, we took that, and I think, I don't want to be prideful saying this, but I think we are accredited to causing that to be an explosion on YouTube. Yeah. Because we're just like, okay, let's come up with a story, let's film it, let's make it as gruesome as possible, let's do whatever we can, make it believable, make it kind of like Blair Witch style, and then let's put it up on YouTube and see what it does. Mm-hmm. And so we did it that week. We came up with the idea, we filmed it, edited it, put it on YouTube, and 7 days later, it had 1 million views. Yeah. It took 7 days to get to 1 million.
And a week after that, it had 2 million views. It went more, it got more viral than we could have even fathomed.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like, you know, maybe a couple, because at the time we were getting like a couple hundred views on our films, maybe 1,000 at tops. Yeah. But then when we did this, we were thinking, you know, 10,000, 20,000. It had 10,000 the first day. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I was sitting in class and refresh it and see like 5,000 more views pop up.
Yeah, I remember sitting in math class just refresh after refresh after refresh and just like thousands of more views every time. That was a really good feeling, just knowing that people are watching something you've created.
Yeah, you know? It's an incredible feeling because it's like, you have a voice, and regardless of if you're really trying to tell like some sort of personal experience, regardless of that, it's something that your voice created and that people are watching and that people are commenting on, people are thinking about. And it's like, it just makes you feel not necessarily important, but satisfied that you created something that people want to talk about, Because up to this point, I think at least we created 2 short films every month. I'd say at least. And we just kept wondering, like, when is something we're gonna do like catch on? Because we put a lot of work into these films. We were proud of them. And I mean, you guys can go back and look around this time period. They weren't bad. They weren't bad, especially for the age that we were doing it. I think we were 18 when that happened. Yeah, we were 18 when that happened, and so we were just like wondering. And I think that like lack of, I guess, attention, which it wasn't all about attention, but it was just like we just had no drive because no one was like really watching or like appreciating what we were doing. Yeah. And so when this happened, this really just like was the catalyst for our pursuit of filmmaking because we're like, okay, people will watch what we want to do. It's a possibility. It can happen. Mm-hmm. So let's take this momentum and let's go for it. Yeah. So right after that, Ethan and I made the decision to move out of our parents' house and be full-time independent filmmakers. Right? Oh, man.
And that ended up being the best, worst decision we've ever done in our entire lives.
It was great in theory. It was terrible in actuality because, I mean, I'm not saying, because, I mean, we made some great films in that period of time. We had some great stuff that we put out there, but at the same time, our lives were so revolved around it, which isn't necessarily all that bad, but our living situation was like way below what it should have been. Yeah. Like, I mean, struggling to pay the bills, struggling to be sane.
Remember Ethan, when we first moved in, he paid rent. He had no money at the time. He paid rent, and for that entire month, he had $15 in reserve. Yep. The man was eating potted meat every day.
And peanut butter and hot sauce sandwiches. Actually not that bad. Surprisingly, actually tastes pretty interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. And looking back, trying to ride that wave of that viral trend may have been a little naive. I'm glad we did it, but our entire fan base, I'd say like 90% of our fan base at the time that we moved out was from that clown video. Yep. And what they wanted to see was more clown videos. And that's more and more clown videos. They wanted to see death and gore and horror and stuff. And I mean, we're not opposed to that, but that's not who we are. Because again, we want to tell the stories and we want to express ourselves like we were talking about earlier. And you can't do that every single time in a clown video.
No, you can't. And that's, honestly, putting it this way, if we had rode that hype with a clown video every week, there's no doubt in my mind that we would have probably millions of subscribers that came to our channel just to watch clown videos. Yeah. And we'd have a fan base for clown videos. Think of Raka Raka. They do the Ronald McDonald. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. That's their big thing. Or if you think of True Mobster, the GTA stuff, or let's say another one.
I don't know like the YouTubers by name, but there's a lot of people who just like do strictly Fortnite videos or Nerf videos and stuff like that.
And they build up a following for that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the time, that's just not what we wanted to do. We wanted to go back to what we had been doing all along, which is just making films that we want to do. No specific genre, just telling the story that we needed to tell at that time. That's what we want to do. That's what we still want to do. And we didn't want to be just encapsulated in that horror clown genre.
Yeah, because it's limiting. It's very limiting.
It is. So taking that into consideration, after that, when we moved out, we struggled really hard. Each video we made, our views went down and down and down. Mm-hmm. But with each video, our effort went up, up, and up. And so it was just demoralizing.
It was. Because it was like, it's like, okay, we're not getting as many views, that's fine, but we're going to try harder so that maybe we can gain an audience for our true passion. So we'd like put more effort and more effort and more effort. And then if we didn't, I mean, there were times we were literally running advertisements on our
Yeah.
YouTube channel to just try to get people to just at least watch, GTA 5, I think was one, and Tom Peterman, just stories we were passionate to tell, nobody wanted to see.
Mm-mm.
And none of our fans wanted to see because they were just solely held up on the clown thing.
Yeah, and I mean, there were a few subscribers, and those people are still with us today, but these select subscribers have always liked what we do. No matter the story, they just like the stories that we have to tell and they just love our voice. You know what I'm saying?
Those guys are the real MVPs.
Those guys are the real MVPs, and that shows us and gives us hope that people are out there. They want to hear what we have to say. They want to hear our voice. They want to see what we create. But when you gain your popularity off a specific trend, you can't keep writing that. And we were naive about that, but we learned a lot from that experience, and we learned a lot in the future going on about what we make and how we make it and stuff like that. So in the end, it was good.
Yeah, it was a learning curve for sure.
It was a learning curve. So kind of to dive back into what it was like when we were living together, what it was like just completely throw everything away. I mean, we still had full-time jobs. We still had to support ourselves, but pretty much everything else, just throw everything else away and just pursue independent filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back into that.
Like we said, with every film, we put in more and more effort, and views went more and more down. But at this time, our mental health really was at stake, because it was an everyday thing where we would be either planning for the next film, shooting the film we were shooting, or editing the film that we previously shot. And that was the endless routine, whilst going to college and working a part-time job and eating potted meat.
And potted meat, yep.
And, the people that we lived with, I mean, they're good guys, but I don't think that everyone is meant to live with everyone. And so we were kind of naive moving in with them. I mean, just, you never know what it's going to be like living with someone until you live with someone, and you can be divided. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to get divided when you move in with someone that you might be best friends with, or someone that you're friends with but not super, super close. You don't know everything that goes into that. You don't know what it's going to be like until you do it. And there was never an issue between me and Cole living together. I mean, we slept in bunk beds pretty much the whole time. Like, we were fine with each other. We were both equally depressed. We were both equally in this manic state.
Because what it came down to really is we had no balance in our life. It was just work, film. There was no relationship. We had our friends, but no significant other relationships, and we didn't ever go out and have fun or anything like that. We were 19 years old, and I can still say to this day I've been to one party in my entire life. We didn't go to parties. We did not live like a typical 19-year-old life. We were just so focused on our goal and our dream that drive just drove us into the dirt, honestly. And I mean, I think that's an important lesson, that you have to have that passion. You have to have that pursuit. But at the same time, there are more important things in life.
You can't put that over everything else in life. It's it's very important, and you got to drive for that, but you got to keep that balance, because there's 7 billion other people in this world, and you got to experience life for what it is. I mean, you got to work hard, you got to pursue it, but at the same time, you got to enjoy what everybody else enjoys too. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to lose your damn mind.
Just don't have just complete tunnel vision. See the world. See what the world is like and have experiences. And I think that while we were living in the house, I think that was our big downfall. That, and this probably sounds stupid, but we put quantity over quality.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, how does one do that? It sounds so obvious to have quality over quantity, but like we mentioned earlier, how YouTube kind of held it as, we're grateful for it because it's given us a platform to share our voice, but also it's kind of held us back in ways, because instead of focusing on the art of filmmaking, we focused on trying to gain traction on YouTube.
Yeah, and trying to appeal to the audience.
And try to appeal to the audience, not just say what we actually want to say, or say what's within us. And how you get popular on YouTube, quantity. That seems to be the given formula. Quantity. And so we were like, okay, I mean, there's a bunch of other YouTubers who just keep pumping out films, and
Yeah,
they're doing really good.
Twice a week, sometimes every day.
Yeah, so so we just got to do that, and then the stuff we make is good enough to gain traction. So let's just do that. So,
but see, what we didn't understand is that I think with vlogs and gaming, certain things like that, you can do that with filmmaking. The amount of effort and time that you actually have to put into one singular film, regardless of what the timestamp is so much greater than just walking around talking about what you did today.
Yeah.
It's so much greater than sitting down for 20 minutes and playing a video game and recording yourself doing it. You know, you're basically creating this world. You have to create a world. And we were trying to create one world every week.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous. It shouldn't be done. It shouldn't ever be done.
No.
But that's what we did. And it eventually just led us running out of steam and nosediving. Yeah. And you know, we didn't have that balance. And then eventually we moved out of the house into the apartment.
Yep.
And then it was better for a while because we had kind of a change of scenery.
Yeah, change of scenery. Our living situation was better. You know, it was just Ethan and I in that apartment, not to take anything away from the other guys, but Ethan and I we get along really well and we click and we know how to not get on each other's nerves. So living like just he and I was just, you know, is fine. It was perfectly fine. But we still kind of had that same mindset, you know, like, okay, we have to, you know, keep grinding it out on
every
YouTube.
Week.
And we didn't have, we started to put quality over quantity just because
at that point we did realize, okay, we can't keep doing this. We need to start making just bigger projects.
Yeah.
But even then, we still were overworking ourselves.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, it just still seemed like with each film we just began to burn out. You know, we just, or like after each film we just like could do nothing but just like lay around for like 2 weeks. You know? And it's just, and that shouldn't be.
We actually came up with a term called post-film depression. And I remember us saying that every single time we uploaded. We'd hit the render button, we'd hit the upload button, write out the description, throw on the thumbnail, lay back, and say, yes, the post-film depression has hit. And then we wouldn't do anything for 2 weeks straight. And if we did anything, it would probably just be work. Like, I know we went and filmed a documentary 1 week when we had post-film depression for your dad.
Yeah.
And it got our minds off of, like, filmmaking, but it was still, like, we were still burning I don't understand what we were thinking, because it was like, okay, let's take a break from this by doing something that's equally as stressful.
Yeah. I mean, and, you know, don't get it twisted. Like, the filmmaking process is just treacherous in general.
Yeah.
No matter what level you're on. In Hollywood, everyone's stressed out. Everyone's like, okay, what the heck are we doing? It's chaos in all levels.
Yep.
However, you should still deep down love what you're doing. And I think we still kept that, but it shouldn't be after every single time you're just like questioning, okay, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And if you are, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Because again, we still had that love like for filmmaking, and like we still knew that's what we wanted to do, but we just felt like crap
constantly.
Afterwards. Just felt like crap. And we had to step back and just kind of reevaluate everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, transferring out of the apartment, we moved out. We moved back in with our parents' house, and we kind of entered into this transition stage. You know, like, okay, we had a, I guess, quote unquote, you know, failed venture with moving out and trying independent filmmaking. What are we gonna do now?
Yep. Yeah. And thus, strange things happen, and I don't think we figured it out yet.
No, we still haven't figured it out. And that is a huge point of this podcast, to admit that we have not figured it out at all. We're trying to, and we want to document this, and I know there's a lot of people out there who have also not figured it out. And we want to go through this journey with you, because there's no right way to do it. You know, I hope you guys can learn from some of the mistakes that we've had, you know, because I don't want anybody out there to feel like how we felt on certain nights or certain days when we moved out of that apartment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, filmmaking, I assume if you're listening to this, it's your love, it's your passion. And sometimes it's going to screw you up. You know, your mental health will be at stake at a few points. That's just the process of filmmaking. But you should love it with everything in you, and you should have that drive to keep going no matter what. And I want everyone out there to keep that. And I want everyone out there to keep going, and we will keep going.
Yeah, and just know that, like those times of periods of, like, you're just beat up, you're dead, just damaged really.
Yeah.
You're damaged. You got to know that it's not that filmmaking isn't your passion. It's not that you're not doing good enough at filmmaking. It's that you really, instead of pushing yourself to do it more like we did, take a step back and find the equilibrium of how to do it and do it right, which again, there's no right way to do it, but just do it to where it does not kill you, because your performance will suffer.
Yeah, and find out the stories that you really want to tell.
Yeah.
That think, wait, okay, I have to tell this. You find whatever that is, and be like, okay, I have to, tell the world this story, and find like whatever that is, like whatever you're really passionate about, and share that with people. It's your job to share your artistic vision and your thoughts, your feelings, and your ideas with everybody in the world. It's your job to do that. And it's our job to do that. And it's our job as filmmakers to break through the walls that surround us and, tell these stories that, are implanted inside of us.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times with nowadays, just filmmaking in general, especially Hollywood filmmaking, big name filmmakers, they're concentrating so much on the visual aspect of film instead of really diving into the storytelling aspect, the narrative aspect. They let the narrative aspect suffer because their concentration is on visual effects, or how can we make something look cool, or composition or whatever, which, don't get me wrong, those are important aspects of the puzzle, but it's not what it's all about. You've got to have that blend. Everything has a balance. And I think that's why more underground artists in every art, but most of all, of course, filmmaking, because that's our subject matter and our passion, is the fact that the reason the underground artists have so much more. I've seen so many underground films that I've viewed and been touched by in my soul, in my heart, because of the way the story was told, rather than watching, let's say, Transformers or something like that and being like, oh wow, that looks pretty cool, when those visual effects artists really killed it.
Yeah,
it's a different type of feeling.
It is.
But I think people in the biggest blockbusters, they're just like, their sole contributor to why they're doing it is money. And it's like, okay, what do people pay to see? We pay to see Marvel movies, which, don't get me wrong, Marvel movies are good, but visual effects, explosions, all this, but they lose sight of what true filmmaking is all about, and that's the story.
And I mean, but at the end of the day, filmmaking is a business, especially on the Hollywood level. It is a business. So that's why they continue to make these movies, because, as an audience, we continue to go see them. But again, on the level that we're at, and I think, no matter what level, and there are professional filmmakers in Hollywood and still, kind of break convention and just like tell the stories that they really want to tell. And I think that is the most important. And I think that it's our job as audiences and as filmmakers to go support people who actually put their passion and their viewpoint into their films, rather than just films that are a cash grab, and we all know what those are. But I will say, disclaimer, Ethan and I have a very, very anti movie bash policy. I mean, we will bash movies, but you'll very rarely hear us say that a movie is bad.
Yeah. Because we strongly disagree with film critiquing, I guess. Well, critique depends on what you think of critique, because no one should ever have the right, except for that specific filmmaker that created it and everyone who works on it together as a whole, to say a movie is great or terrible. Because at the end of the day, that movie could be great to one person and terrible to another. But that doesn't make it great or terrible.
Yeah.
Because you can't just take one opinion and make it mask out all the others. Yeah. Every opinion counts.
And also, my thing is, even if the movie, if there's a general consensus that it is not good, it is not a good movie, somebody on that crew or somebody behind the scenes, somebody somewhere worked their butt off to get that film made.
Could have been one PA.
Could have been a PA. Could have been some grip. It could have been anybody. But somebody worked their butt off to get that film made. And even if the movie seems lazy, you can guarantee that somebody put their heart and soul into that. Yeah. And to just straight up say, wow, that movie is trash. Everything about that is trash.
It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful, even if it's just to that one person, regardless of how high up in the chain he was. Like, he poured his heart and soul out into it, so don't call it trash. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But to kind of end with this, and I guess, well, to end with this podcast, but to start with the actual topic that we have advertised, film school versus no film school. All right.
Ding, ding.
And so I've heard opinions about this a lot from people who have reached a certain level of success, or people who have graduated film school and gone on to make movies, or people who didn't go to film school and gone on to make movies. But I think it's an interesting take to hear it from two people who are in the midst of it.
Yeah.
Ethan is currently not in film school, and I am currently in film school. But I also have experience of not being in film school.
No.
Taking back to our independent filmmaking venture. So we just kind of want to give our experiences and our opinions on what we are currently going through right now. Ethan, how is it going for you, my man?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Just life in a grand spectrum is kind of turned upside down. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm running around with like a chicken with its head cut off, and that's pretty much my life in a nutshell. But when it comes to not being in film school, which technically I guess I'm pursuing film in school, but I'm not in film school.
Yeah.
Because I am going for a degree in 3D animation and modeling, because I feel like that's it right now, right here where I am. That's the only thing that I can go for that even, would be articulated in our background. And I felt like that it could back up some of our films of having that knowledge of, how to put some three-dimensional aspects in what we do to further tell our stories even more. But, other than that, I mean, not being in film school, I guess the biggest hinder that I have is not being surrounded by people of like minds. That's probably the biggest hindrance of not being in film school, because you don't see a lot of people that are interested in film. I mean, they might like it, and they might be like, "Oh, that's cool, I can help you out," but they're not the same passion.
And where we live, Huntsville, Alabama, the film scene is not huge.
Nope.
And some of the people who kind of are in the top of the film scene around here are not some of the best people.
Yep. Lost a couple contests because of that.
Well, let me start off by saying that our 7-year YouTube venture was in its way a film school.
Yeah.
We were forced to learn everything. It was a group of our friends, from the get-go, but Ethan and I, especially towards the end, kind of had to take the bull by the horns and kind of learn everything. Ethan, from when we very first started, learned After Effects. He had to teach himself After Effects, YouTube tutorials and everything like that. And that was, because he wanted to do that, and also out of necessity, because if we want to make films, we have to put them together somehow. And the type of stuff we were making, visual effects based stuff, we have to know how to do visual effects. So that kind of brought Ethan to do that. And throughout making these films, we started to learn like different like camera composition. We kind of learned what an over the shoulder shot was and stuff like that. And like, oh, if you have the camera here, then you should definitely put the camera over here next. It just like all started to click from movies that we had watched and stuff like that. And the more we did it, the more it kind of made sense, and we followed our instincts, and we just educated ourselves on YouTube in any way possible.
Yeah, in a way, we learned the rules to break the rules.
Right.
And that's what I like to say, and that's another thing about film school. If you just simply go to film school, I think, which I don't know because I've never been, but from what I've seen of people who solely focus on film school and never really have a period of time where they actually just try to do it themselves. They learn the rules.
Yes. And
then they never break the rules.
Yeah. It's like all their knowledge that they have is like pulling out from a textbook.
Yeah.
Because we never had that textbook. We had our experiences. You know what I'm saying? We drew from those, and we've always drawn from those experiences. And I think that has really affected our instincts. I think we have really good instincts now. And I think that we're not afraid to kind of break convention, like you said, and kind of go out of the box, because we've done it so many times. You know what I'm saying?
And I feel like people are just afraid. It's like, oh, well, I'm afraid of judgment, or I'm afraid of my professor saying, well, I don't agree with that. Well, here's the thing. Going back to what we said earlier, it doesn't matter if he agrees with it. Did it work? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If it worked, you did it right. Because it's like ad lib. You do it. If it looks good, if it worked, then it's right.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if, somebody else says it's wrong. If you think it's right, if other people think it's right, then it's right.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's against the rules.
But we had to kind of teach ourselves like how to direct actors. If we had some of our friends on set, we kind of like had to teach ourselves like how to direct them so we can have them in the camera just like correlating with each other. And we had to learn how to roll a boom mic. We had to learn how to light a set, how to work a camera. We had to learn literally every single aspect of filmmaking out of necessity. You know what I'm saying? Because we didn't have a film crew or anything like that. We were our own film crew. Yeah. And so we had to learn how to do everything, which really helps now because we can walk on a set and just
do anything.
Kind of be polymaths, honestly.
Yeah, because honestly, I've talked to people. They're like, "Well, could you do this?" Because they'll come to me for a certain thing, and they'll just be like, "Hey," and then somebody will fill that role, or I'll go to them because they need a certain thing. They're like, "Oh, well, somebody already took that role," and they'll be like, "Well, do you feel comfortable doing this?" And there's no doubt in my mind, whatever they say, whether it's boom mic or gaffer, or grip, PA, DP, I'm gonna say yes every time because I've done it all. Yeah. I am fully comfortable in doing any aspect of filmmaking because that's what we had to do for 7 years straight. Is every single last thing, acting, edit, everything. That was all fell on the shoulders of us, and of course, the other people around us. But like you said, we took the bull by the horns. We had to do that because if nobody else was going to do it, who was going to do it? Because it had to be done.
Yeah, and again, when we said it kind of used to be a hobby, but when it was time to kind of like transfer from it being a hobby to actually being a passion that you want to pursue and as a career and as a just want it to be part of your life, I think Ethan and I were the two people that kind of accepted that we want to do that. Everyone else, it had been a hobby for them. They wanted to keep it a hobby, and there's nothing wrong with that. Filmmaking,
it just wasn't their thing. It just wasn't their life choice. Everybody has that choice again, and they chose to stick with filmmaking as like their hobby and their passion. They loved doing that, but at the same time they had other goals, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But for us, me and you, I feel like it's always deep down been like those were one and the same for us.
I can tell you there's not a single thing I want to do other than filmmaking. I can honestly say that right now, and and not everyone comes to feel that way, and it's fine. But now, kind of going into my film school experience so far, I have not been there long. I've been there, this is my first semester there, so I've been there for 3 months, I suppose. I'm technically a freshman because after we moved out of our parents' house, I also dropped out of college, out of my community college, and so I never progressed in grades, so I'm still a freshman. I go to the University of North Alabama, so I don't go to a huge film school or anything like that. The film program's still good, and the professors there are awesome. Mike Johnson and Jason Pangilian, they're really great people, and I've learned a lot from them already, and I don't even have any film classes or anything like that. But I'd say, Ethan said the disadvantage of not going to film school is not being surrounded by people, and that's really the very advantage of film school is just being submersed in it. And I am just surrounded by people who also love the craft, and I've been there 3 months, and I've been on a bunch of sets already, and I've already been asked to DP some big projects for people, and I'm just constantly surrounded by it and like being able to learn new things, because again, the stuff that we have done before, our sets were not professional. We had a camera, some guy was rolling a boom, and maybe some guy was like holding the light. Yep. They've progressed, but most of our filmmaking careers have pretty much been that. But now at film school, it's kind of like a more stimulated, like actual like set.
Because people who you're having help you actually know how to help you. Right. Because they've been doing it for a while. And it's like if you say, hey, I want you to gaff this, they know what you're talking about. Exactly. Or if you're like, hey, can you roll boom? Can you be the boom operator for this? They're like, yeah, because they've done it before. Exactly. So it's a lot easier to manage a set when everybody has managed a real set before. Plus, like with us, there you have like so many people that are willing to help. With us, I mean, we have maybe a group of 4 or 5 people, and most of the time we can't even get, everybody's schedules to line up. So we might have one person out of our actual group, the actual WarTorn group there at a time, because everybody's schedules are so different. And I mean, it's like you can't have one guy, setting up all the lights, rolling boom mic, and like helping out in acting. It's just not going to work. No. So having the blessing of just having all those people that are willing to help and know how to help and being able to line up. There's so many people that it doesn't matter if one person cancels, that doesn't blow the whole shoot. Because it's like you said, there was one guy, the one set that you were recently on that had 4 or 5 PAs or something like that? What was it?
Yeah. It was, I think it was a 1-minute short film, and there were probably 3 PAs, but
3 PAs.
There were 3 grips, and I mean, there was a script supervisor. I think there was even a second AD. They had a first AD and a second AD, and I'm just like, wow. But that's the thing about it. People there really want to help. They want to get involved. I mean, I don't know how it is everywhere, but I know I'm just speaking for the university I'm at. People really want to get involved, and I know with artists, a huge thing is ego and desire. Yeah. I mean, people let that get in the way of them. But I mean, honestly, here everyone is willing to help each other out, and it's a good atmosphere.
That's the good thing about film school. I think
it is, because it's just everyone's united under one passion, one dream. We all want to be filmmakers, even though some people might want to be an editor or a director, or most people directors, but a cinematographer or anything. But we all want to tell stories at the end of the day, because the editor is involved in telling the story. Everyone, the grip is involved in telling the story. Everyone there is a storyteller, and I think that's what we all want to do at the end of the day. So that's the good thing about film school. That's what I've enjoyed. I've made friends, and I mean, it's been a good experience. So now we'll go into a little bit of the drawbacks of film school. Well, first and foremost, I'm not going to bash the university I go to. The University of North Alabama is a great school. However, the film program is small. It is still growing, and we only have 2 professors. So the class outreach is not very extensive. Most of the stuff in the curriculum is based on directing, which is, I mean, that's fine. That's what I want to do. I want to be a director, but I think it's important as a director that you know how to do everyone's job. And I feel like you should be as knowledgeable at that person's job as they are. Maybe you can't do it as good.
I agree with that.
Because maybe you can't do it as good because that's their job. That's what they've been trained to do. But you should know everything there is to know about that. And that's a big thing for me. I want to know everything there is about editing, 3D visuals. I want to know just everything about cinematography. That's a big thing for me. But at the film school I go to, there's no specific cinematography classes or editing classes or sound classes, anything like that. And so that's kind of a drawback. I know people there, they've kind of had to teach themselves that, kind of like we had. Yeah. Had to. They have, directing and, cinema appreciation, the history of film and all that. We're taught that. And we're taught, the basics of filmmaking, the production and everything like that, and, how to actually get films made. But, the kind of, the specific nomenclatures within filmmaking, again, going back editing and stuff like that, everyone's kind of had to teach themselves that. Mm. And I just know personally for me, I want to learn everything I possibly can. So I'm striving to go to one of the top universities that there is. That's kind of what I'm wanting to do. When I decided to go to school last summer, it was kind of a spontaneous thing, and the University of North Alabama is local to us, and that was really the only place still accepting applications. And I've heard their film school is pretty good, so I went there. But to me, the big thing is just to do everything I possibly can to set myself up for success. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I think another drawback for me right now is just overextension. Because, again, I said everyone there is very, eager and excited to be on as many sets as possible and just, be as involved as possible. But when you do that, you leave less time to focus on yourself. And I feel like for me, lately, I have not had enough time to focus on the stories I actually want to tell. I've been so focused on like helping other people and like gaining as much on-set experience as possible because I've lacked that throughout my life. I've just taken kind of a back seat to like what I actually want to do and the stories I want to tell and the things that I want to make. And that's kind of something that I need to adjust in my personal life. That may not be for everybody at film school, but I just know that's how it is for me right now. But I would say overall, if you can afford film school and you feel like that if you're in a position where you have never had that much experience making films, I think film school is good.
And if you have nothing that you don't want to leave behind if you have to get up and move. Yeah. Because if you have no limitations, then go for it. Yeah. If you feel like it's the right decision, for sure. But another thing is like, at the end of the day, the point of going to film school is 1, seeking out that knowledge. 2, surrounding yourself with people who also are seeking out that knowledge and are willing to help. But that doesn't mean that like all the time that's the only way that you can seek the knowledge, and it doesn't mean that's the only way you can surround yourself with people like that. Because like me and Cole, we're different. We had different routes at this point in time. Like he goes to film school, he's on plenty of sets all the time. For me, I was seeking. I knew that I couldn't leave at the time to go to a film school, even though I did want to. I knew that it wasn't right for me at that point in time. So I tried to find ways to submerge myself around people who were also submersed in it, no matter how low on the chain that I was going to be, just so I could learn. And so I sought out whatever I could, whether it was editing something for somebody or being a PA. And I was a PA on a couple things. I was a PA on a couple of things, and I can say
tiny green pea.
Yeah, no, pretty much. Yeah, no, seriously, it's pretty much the equivalent. You'd be surprised. Like I felt like I mean, literally, the AC was coming to me asking me questions, and I was the PA because he thought I wasn't the PA because we had switched ACs. So, but I went there with the knowledge I had, and I understood right off the bat, yes, I have knowledge, but I also don't know. There's certain set etiquettes that I have not learned yet that you have to learn on the job. And that's what forced me to learn that. It's like how to correctly set up stuff, how to talk correctly, how to get things done to where it's efficient and up to par with the code and all sorts of stuff like that. Being able to view how other DPs light scenes is one of the most beautiful things because oftentimes you're doing that. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do this here, there, here, and there. But when you get to view somebody else that you've never seen before, because if you're a PA, I mean, you're setting it up for them, but you get to see why they're doing what they're doing. And that kind of opens up more of a world of like, okay, this guy is lighting it this way for this reason, even though it might not make sense to a normal person. If you look at it, you're like, that's a lot of lighting, but he's doing it for a reason. And then if you look at the footage, you're just like, okay, that's incredible. And it's just built up experience. And being able to learn from someone who has that built up experience, it really just helps you as a person grow in the filmmaking community.
Yeah, I mean, guys, at the end of the day, it's just about getting experience.
Yeah.
And whether you do that through film school, whether you do that through getting on as many sets as possible, there is no right way to do it at all. And again, we're trying to figure it out. I'm sure you guys are trying to figure it out. If you figure it out, give us a call. Tell me how you did it. But I guarantee if I tried to do it the same way, it would not work. Yeah, we all have to find the ways that we're going to achieve our dreams. And also, you guys, you're going to have to build a battering ram. This is what you have to do. You're going to have to build a battering ram and break into the door of your dreams into the filmmaking world that you're trying to enter. And however the way you build that battering ram is up to you.
Yep. And because it's custom fit for everyone, man. Everyone has their own design,
battering ram. Yep.
And you might come at it with a battering ram once and it not work. You got to go back and make a different battering ram and see if it's like a key.
It is a key, but
it's like a battering ram.
No one's going to let you in that door. No. I will tell you that right now. And at the end of film school, you're not going to graduate and some guy from Warner Brothers and be like, oh, here's a job. And here's the opportunity to direct a multi-million-dollar movie. They're not going to do that.
No.
You're still going to have to beat it down with that battering ram, whether you graduate from film school or not. Film school is a tool, just like everything else that you do on your journey. It is a tool. All right? And so you put that tool in your toolbox.
And then you
put
go.
that freaking battering ram.
Exactly.
I don't know if that analogy makes sense.
It makes perfect sense because it's like you have a tool. You have a toolbox, right?
Yep.
You have all these tools, like personal experience, all the films you've created, all the reservoir of films, like your portfolio, everything. Degrees if you have them. Knowledge. Film school is one of those tools. Yes. But once you get done with film school, it's not like those tools are going to magically, for whatever reason, you have tools now and you're just, you have tools, you're allowed to...
Oh, he has tools. Let him in.
Yeah, exactly. No, you've got to take those tools, create a battering ram, and then barge in.
A battering ram that nobody has ever seen and is unlike anything else.
Precisely.
A battering ram that is custom tailored to your beliefs and your thoughts and your voice.
Exactly.
And if you haven't figured out that battering ram is a metaphor for the things that you create. We're getting deep on this podcast, boys and girls.
Precisely.
We're getting we're going back. We have entered the universe of philosophical again, or we're just stupid. I don't know.
No, dude,
these guys need to stop talking in metaphors. These freaking morons.
No, dude, that's my whole life. My life is a metaphor.
Dude, everything's a metaphor.
Stop talking like a British person.
Hello. I can't do accents.
I can do accents. Hello. Yeah. That's what it was. What it is and is what it was.
Yeah, that is our take on. Well, that's our origin story.
Yep.
And you can expect us to not ever talk about ourselves again.
Yeah,
because no one likes to do that. But we decided to start this baby off with just our origin story and maybe throw in. Well, we did throw in a film school versus no film school.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you guys...
people who are right smack dab in the middle of it.
Smack dab in the middle. I hope you guys pulled something from that. Maybe you just pulled these guys are idiots. I don't know, but...
Oh, we are, though.
We are. But I hope you guys have enjoyed our insight and are listening to our experiences and our troubles and our successes. And we hope that you come back and listen to us. But, Ethan has volunteered to do an outro.
Oh, we're doing an outro now.
So we're doing that. We're doing that outro.
Count this out. You ready?
You want me to count it out?
Do a little bit. Yeah, do a little bit.
Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you want me to beatbox?
Yeah, you want to do the beatbox. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna spit a little rhyme for you. I can't cuss, so I can't rap. Keep going. All right, restart the beat. Yeah, it's Ethan and Cole sitting here on the laptop telling you about our crack top lives. Don't know what I'm gonna say next, but I know you're gonna come back and listen, cause I'm fixing to make an outro.
That was the outro?
No.
Oh.
Outro start now. Oi, what you did? Are you still listening to this here? You are.
I know I'm still listening.
What? You shouldn't be listening anymore. Aren't you tired of hearing these crackpot jokers talking about their terrible lives? Yes?
Go do something with your lives and stop listening to these guys' lives. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. Go pick up a camera. Go pick up a camera and go film something now. Film it. Yes, film it good, film it nice, film it really, really nice.
You guys can find us on YouTube at WarTorn Productions, or you can see us on Instagram at WarTorn Productions, or you can follow us on Facebook at WarTorn Productions.
Or Twitter.
Or Twitter at WarTorn
We don't use
Productions.
Twitter, though.
We don't really use Twitter. And you can find out some more information in the show notes. Feel free to contact us at any time. WarTornInquiries@gmail.com. We love all of you. I'm sorry you had to endure this podcast. We hope you come back. Just if you hate yourself a lot, come back. That was Ethan's outro. We're going to take turns doing outros. So, condemn him.
Do it now. Do it. Film it. Film it down. My precious ears. Can you hear me, God? Can you hear me, God? Because there's so much pain in my thoughts. Get the pain. How much pain I'm in.
Holy crap! Oh my gosh!
Are you okay?
Oh my...
What?
Dude, your head literally almost exploded. I could hear like a fuse, just like a dynamite, just a fuse of dynamite about to go off, and your head was just about to explode. I wish you guys could have seen that. Your face was as red as dynamite too. Oh my goodness.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. All right, well, you guys have a good week. God bless you all.
And take it easy.